Hello and welcome to another Sprues and Brews video. Today we are looking at Warhammer The Horus Heresy Aeronautica Imperialis. So first of all I want to say a massive thanks to Games Workshop for sending us a free review copy to have a look at a little ahead of time. Yeah, this book kind of came out of nowhere and certainly surprised us when it landed on the doorstep. Aeronautica Imperialis is the kind of miniatures game of aircraft in the Warhammer 40,000 universe. And we've had a couple of different box sets now, and we've got quite a range covering, you know, orcs and the kind of Imperial Navy and the Astartes. We've got Necrons, all sorts of stuff now. And yeah, this is a supplement that allows you to play games set within the Horus Heresy. And I've got to say, it's kind of like the definitive Aeronautica Imperialis rulebook as well, really. It contains the rules for playing the game, along with some Horus Heresy lore and a bit of information about a certain conflict, the fall of Vanaheim. That's all included in here, along with the full kind of list for creating a force of Legiones Astartes and the Divisio Aeronautica, which is the kind of time-appropriate Imperial Navy, I guess. You also get rules for the Custodes in the Ares gunship, which can be taken as a force of themselves or can be used in conjunction with one of the other lists. And you also get 8 scenarios in there, which is really like a best of, compiling stuff that was in both the Rin's World book and the Taros Air War book. So even if a majority of people who play in Aeronautica, you're going to have the rules. Some of the vehicle stuff you're going to have in here as well. Obviously you do get some unique kind of stuff related to the different legions. What this does have though is all of those scenarios. There's no new ones in here, but it does have a lot of the scenarios from the 2 other books, 8 in total. So if you're new into the game and you want to play either Space Marines or the kind of the Aeronautica themselves, this is going to be a really, really good jump on point. And it's kind of a shame they didn't have a box set for this with maybe 2 Astartes forces. That said, out of all the games that Games Workshop do, Aeronautica Imperialis isn't really a too expensive one to get into. You can pick up this book and pick up a couple of boxes of the different Space Marine flyers and have a force that's good to go. The game works just as well on kind of like a small scale as it does on a big one, so maybe that's the reason why they haven't gone for that kind of box set. I much preferred the kind of hard stock playing surfaces that they did, and they are releasing one kind of modelled after Vanaheim, the location of the battle in this book, and then they're also releasing the various cards and the Ares gunship. So yeah, this is a pretty exciting time to jump onto Aeronautica Imperialis, especially if you are a fan of the Horus Heresy. So while a lot of this book will be, you know, familiar and in some ways, you know, identical to the existing rule book, I think it's good to have a look through and see what we get. So first of all, we get a little bit of lore about the 31st millennium, you know, what's happening in the Horus Heresy and the air battles that took place. And I've got to say, I am super excited to paint up my my Aeronautica models in kind of Heresy colours. I'm kind of torn. I've got a Sons of Horus army, a Emperor's Children army, and I've been putting together a World Eaters army for the new edition of the Horus Heresy, and I'm very tempted to spray my existing Space Marine flyers in purple to use for this game. So yeah, it's pretty cool. We get a nice timeline of events as well, so if you've seen any of the kind of the specialist games and Forge World stuff, you'll know a lot of this. It's the same kind of layout as the Horus Heresy book as well, so yeah, it's pretty nice how they've done this. Going into the book itself though, it's kind of standard affair. If you've played the game before, you'll know what to expect. It's got all the stuff that you need to play, the basics of how you go about setting your different actions by using tokens and how the game plays through. There's no differences to the mechanics of the game, so don't worry if you are an existing Aeronautica player. Things haven't changed. It is still the same core kind of mechanic. So essentially you pick maneuvers for all of your flyers. There's a number of tokens that represent different manoeuvres that you can do, which we'll see in a little bit. You place them face down, you determine who's got initiative, and then you'll alternate activating your flyers to be able to take turns kind of performing those actions. And the initiative's quite important really, because there is an advantage both to going first and going to second. You know, you're going to be able to shoot first and take down an enemy flyer, but going second you might be able to react to something your opponent's done. So you've got quite an interesting back and forth. If you can get like behind somebody, you get what's called tailing fire. In games of Aeronautica, it's quite hard to take down an opposing flyer. You'll have quite a few turns of like dogfighting with each other and getting some lucky shots off. So any opportunity to get some extra shots is really, really useful, and that's where kind of tailing fire comes in, where you get to make some free shots basically before the shooting starts. You then complete your manoeuvres, you fire, and then there's some things that you could do in the end phase to determine if a ship's like stalling, or you know, if anything happens from the scenario. So yeah, really quite straightforward to learn game, but difficult to master, maybe is a good way of putting it. It's a different kind of flavour of game as well compared to things like Warhammer 40,000 or Age of Sigmar. There's a few other things to think about. For example, as everything in the game is a flyer, there's different altitudes that you could be fighting on, and there's advantages and disadvantages to, you know, shooting another vehicle while you're above or below them or on the same level. If you're trying to kind of get rid of someone tailing you, if you can get on a different altitude, it's going to be harder for them to hit you. So yeah, there's quite a few different moving parts, and a lot of that is done. You can see in this image here, there's the special kind of bases that come with the models that represent how fast they're going, how high they're going, and yeah, that also kind of comes into effect of how you complete those manoeuvres, and being careful that you're not moving yourself into a poor position, because obviously you're alternating with your opponent, and all these flyers are moving at breakneck speed. If you get carried away, you could be in the situation where I don't know, you're moving too slow, so your plane stalls, or you're diving and you pick up some speed and that's actually over the maximum speed that the vehicle can do. So while it's quite a simple rule set, and you know, there's relatively few pages of rules, there's lots of cool things that you have to think about, which makes Aeronautica a really fun game. It's also a relatively quick game as well, and like I said earlier on, you can play it from like 50 points up to, say, I don't know, 300 points. It's going to be a bigger game and a bit messier, but the core mechanics are the same, and you might need a bigger surface when you've got more flyers, and if you're playing a small game you might be better off with one of the slightly smaller paper mats out of one of the starter boxes, but it does scale quite well. What I would say, having played some games of this, it is much more useful having the cards with the various weapon options, just because you can glance down and see kind of your stats in front of you. I quite like, you know, war scroll cards and stuff in Age of Sigmar. I'd argue in Aeronautica it's really, really useful having those weapon cards and being able to kind of like determine what different things are armed with. Model wise, the weapons are so tiny, WYSIWYG isn't really a thing in Aeronautica, but I would say those stat cards for the weapons are really, really useful. So then we learn about Vanaheim and this kind of siege that involves the Iron Warriors. Nice to get a good chunk of lore in the middle of this book where we learn about that battle and what's happened. So if you are a bit of a Horus Heresy fan, it's nice having a couple of pages of new lore in here kind of covering that conflict, and that's really kind of the setting of this this edition. I want to say it's not really a new edition, but this version of Aeronautica Imperialis, and it's nice to give you a bit of a framework to use when creating your games. Now in the book we do get a number of scenarios. Now I believe if we go through the rules for how different things work, so we've got rolling area of engagement. Like I said, some battles you might be moving it so fast it represents like a chase or something, and basically the board will kind of keep cycling through as you're moving. If you go too fast or too slow, you might drop off that combat airspace. So imagine a kind of cinematic dogfight in a film. The camera's panning along and the battlefield kind of represents where the camera is at that point. So works really well in Necromunda and in Gorkamorka and stuff like that, and they've used it again in here. I think they introduced that in the Taros Air War book off the top of my head. And then we get like a greatest hits of Aeronautica scenarios. So again, some of these are from that original Rinnsworld book. Some of them are from the Taros Air War campaign book. It's nice that we get a blend of both of them. It means that, I think, off the top of my head, and I may be wrong, off the top of my head, I think there's just one scenario between the two books that you don't get, which is the kind of like underground battle one. And again, that'll just be because it doesn't really fit the narrative of this campaign pack. So yeah, it's quite nice that you've got I think 8 off the top of my head different missions that you can play through, which is pretty fun. So we've got the dogfight, bombing mission, troop landing, sky fortress attack, canyon attack run, bandits over the river, the straggler, search and rescue. So it is a shame that we've got no new ones here, which might be something of a decider for existing Aeronautica Imperialis players, because if you've got the previous 2 books, you have got all of the scenarios in here and the core rules. I'd have liked to have maybe seen some new missions in here so that you could use this in conjunction with your older books to have a variety of different missions for games of Aeronautica, but it is good that they do contain the blend of missions from the previous 2 books, so I do quite like that. Going on to the squadron lists, we get the full list for the Space Marines and the Imperial Navy equivalent at the time. We do get some Legion specific rules, but really it's just an upgrade that is available for aircraft of that Legion. So you haven't got pages and pages of Horus Heresy appropriate rules. Really it's just these kind of few pages that you've got here. So we've got some generic ones that any Legion can take, and then for each Legion you've got a specific one that they can take, which is generally kind of once per game upgrades that they can do. So Dark Angels Raven Wing Veteran for 6 points. The aircraft is piloted by a veteran of the Raven Wing. Once per game the aircraft may choose to re-roll a dice roll, however all the dice must be re-rolled and the player must accept the result of the second roll, even if it's worse. It can be purchased by any number of aircraft within a force. The White Scars get Swift of Wing. It's 3 points. The aircraft gains the Jinx special rule. Space Wolves Peerless Hunter for 3 points. The aircraft is piloted by a veteran who spent decades hunting prey through the skies. The adds 2 to the firepower characteristic of any weapon and an ammo of unlimited when resolving trailing fire. Pretty cool. Imperial Fists Aegis Pilot, 5 points. The aircraft is piloted by a veteran interceptor pilot who's undertaken extensive protective modifications to the aircraft, increase the structure points by 1. Blood Angels Master of the Skies for 2 points. The Blood Angels are famed for their mastery of the skies. Their pilots are able to perform death-defying feats unmatched by any other Legion. Once per game, the aircraft can increase or decrease its current speed by an amount less than or equal to twice its throttle value. So, yeah, you've got quite a extra speed options there. Iron Hands, the Iron Father, 6 points. The aircraft carrier is piloted by an Iron Father. Once per game, the aircraft may attempt to repair. During the end phase, roll a d6 for each lost point of structure. For each 4+, repair a single point of structure, and it replaces the Tech Marine upgrade. Ultramarines, Alaris pilot, plus 5 points. The aircraft is piloted by an Alaris pilot, a specialist in the application of enhanced aerial tactics. Once per game, when the aircraft is activated during the movement phase, it may discard its manoeuvre token immediately and choose another ace manoeuvre, so that's pretty fun. Salamanders, tempered plating for 4 points. The aircraft has been outfitted with specialised plating constructed within the Legion forges. The aircraft counts as having the ceramite plating upgrade. In addition, once per game, the aircraft can ignore any extra damage caused by a single enemy weapon. The aircraft can be upgraded with either tempered plating or ceramite plating, but not both. And then the Raven Guard gets Shadow Bird for 1 point. Raven Guard pilots are known for their ability to avoid detection by all but the most sophisticated of defence networks. The aircraft gains the Stealth -1 special rule. So there's the Loyalist ones. We then get a list for the traitors as well. So the Emperor's Children, Phoenix pilot for 6 points. The aircraft is piloted by a veteran dedicated to perfecting the art of aerial combat. The upgrade may only be taken by one aircraft within a force. Once per game, the aircraft may choose to re-roll a dice. However, all the dice rolled must be re-rolled, and then the player must accept the result of the second roll, even if it's worst. In addition, increase the ace manoeuvres characteristic of an aircraft by 1. So that's pretty cool. The Iron Warriors, Hellbreaker missiles for 3 points. An aircraft with this upgrade improves its extra damage special rule of its crack missiles, dual crack missiles, hunter killer missiles, and dual hunter killer missiles by 1. Pretty cool. Night Lords have got the Anguish engines for a point. An aircraft within 3 hexes of one or more aircraft with this upgrade reduces its handling by 1. That's pretty cool. The World Eaters have got the Red Hunter for plus 3 points. The aircraft's pilot favours direct and savage tactics, destroying their opponents at close range. Once per game during the firing phase, the aircraft may add 1 to the result of hit rolls if it's within short range. The Death Guard, the Shroud of Barbarous for 5 points. Once per game after moving the aircraft in the movement phase, the aircraft may activate its Shroud of Barbarous. Until the end of this round, the aircraft cannot be targeted by enemy aircraft or ground defences, nor can the aircraft fire at an enemy aircraft or ground defences. Fair enough. The Thousand Suns, the Corvadi Initiate, 6 points. If the night fighting or bad weather rules are in use, the aircraft may fire at maximum range without reducing the number of firepower dice rolled. In addition, once per game, the aircraft can ignore the -1 to hit modifier when making an attack against an aircraft at altitude 1 higher or lower than its own. That's very good. The Sons of Horus, War Master's Chosen, plus 3 points. The upgrade can be taken by one aircraft within a force. Once per game, a force that contains this aircraft can re-roll the dice when rolling for initiative. That's a pretty big deal as well. The Word Bearers, Possessed Pilot for 4 points. Once per game during the firing phase, the pilot may increase the short and or medium range of its weapons by 2 hexes. Long range does not change. That's pretty cool, especially with some weapons having decent short range values. You can really kind of maximise that. And then the Alpha Legion Sachi Pilot, plus 1 point. After both sides have deployed their forces, the aircraft may be redeployed following the deployment rules of the scenario. So some Alpha Legion shenanigans going on there. So as you can see, they're not like pages of kind of Heresy era specific rules, but there's enough fun upgrades to be able to tailor your fleet, your force, to kind of make it fight like that Legion. So that's pretty cool. We then get the full profiles of all of the vehicles as well. So these are the same as the ones in the in the older books, but they're all compiled together here. What is good is you get all of the Space Marine ones. So again, we all know and love them. Unfortunately, there's no new ones in here. I was wondering if we'd get like a Stormhawk or something. No, it's just the existing kits we've got along with the ground defences. You also get the Divisio Aeronautica as well, which is the kind of Imperial force at that time. And again, you'd get what you'd expect, the Thunderbolt, all those kind of vehicles. The more Astra Militarum flavoured vehicles aren't included in this book as well. I guess from a narrative and time period point of view, I guess they wouldn't be operating with them at the time. Technically the Astra Militarum wouldn't have existed. It would have been a different fighting force. So I guess that's why they're not in there. But from a kind of a list point of view, for people jumping into the game that don't want to play Orcs or Eldar, for example, this is a really good option because you've got all your different flyer units in here, which is really handy. You also get a brand new one, the Ares gunship for the Custodes. So this is a different one in that you can create a force of just Ares gunships. It's a shame that there's not a smaller gunship option for the Custodes, or the Orion gunship, or some of the smaller like flyers or something. You have only got the one ship for them. You can absolutely do a force of just them, and it's a pretty cool flyer. But the idea is that you can take one of these alongside a Astartes or Aeronautica force. So yeah, pretty cool. It's expensive, but it's pretty strong. So 43 points. It's got 5 structure points, Throttle 2, it can do manoeuvres 1 to 5 as a handling of 3+. Min speed of 0, max speed of 5 and a max altitude of 5, so it can come to a complete halt. It's got a heavy blaze cannon, firepower 460, damage 4+, unlimited ammo and extra damage on a 5+, and then the magma blaze cannon, again targets the front, 343, 3+ damage, unlimited and extra damage 4+, so you've got some pretty powerful guns on them. You've also got the firebomb clusters as well. Rear fire arc, costs 2 points to have it, firepower 6, damage 3+, ammo 1, ground attack and extra damage 5+. So these things are certainly going to pack a punch, and it's going to be hard to chew through them as well. It's yeah, I'm tempted to pick one up just for fun. You know, if you get 3 of them and some upgrades, you can probably do a 150 point force of them, so that'd be pretty fun too. I assume this is on pre-order the same time as this book. I believe it is, so it might be able to be purchased right now as well. But yeah, it looks pretty fun. And then yeah, you get your quick reference guides at the back of the book, all your different manoeuvre diagrams, and a copy of the tokens that you can photocopy. Like I say, it's a bit of a shame that they haven't brought out a kind of boxed set alongside this. I'd have quite liked them to have, this book, a selection of the Space Marine flyers and the tokens and stuff in there. I believe you can still get the previous Aeronautica boxes. I might be wrong, but I think you can still get them. So kind of depends what you're playing. If you're playing the Space Marine Force and you're new to Aeronautica, I guess it does make sense to pick this up, pick up a couple of boxes of the Space Marine flyers, and then you're all set. You won't have physical tokens, but you've got the photocopyable sheet in the back of it, and I'm sure you can probably pick up the tokens fairly cheap on eBay and the like. Yeah, Aeronautica is a really fun game. It's quite nice being quite a short game as well. It can be a bit of a palate cleanser on club night, or a nice little side project to, say, if you're doing a Horus Heresy campaign, maybe have some aerial battles mixed in there that might have some extra effect on the overgoing campaign. So yeah, there's some fun stuff you can do with that. I'm certainly going to paint up a Astartes force of some flavour to go with this, and I think the other guys will be too. So yeah, it's nice to have the kind of Legion specific stuff in there too. So yeah, this one, the recommendation really does depend on if you've got any of the existing books. If you've got both the existing books, you've got the core rules, you've got all of the scenarios in this book. Really the new bits that you'd be getting would be the Legion specific stuff, the Ares gunship, and obviously all the narrative stuff as well. If you've not played Aeronautica yet though, I think this is a great jumping in point. You've got the most complete list of scenarios in a single book. You've got all the profiles for all the kind of like the Space Marines and the kind of the Divisio Aeronautica stuff, giving you lots of options for creating your force as well. Obviously, if you're an Eldar and Orc player, the book's probably not for you because it is covering the Horus Heresy period. I am interested to see if we get any more supplemental stuff in here though, maybe introducing a couple of new flyers for the Custodes. It is a shame we've only got the one, but the one that we've got does look really, really cool. So yeah, hopefully we'll get some games of Aeronautica Imperialis on the go. I think it'd be a nice easy one to do for a video too, so hopefully in the near future we'll be able to get a Aeronautica Imperialis battle report going up on the show. But yeah, I hope you've enjoyed the video. If you have, why not give us a follow. We do quite a lot of unboxings and painting videos and battle reports and all that kind of stuff. The battle reports will be coming back very, very soon, hopefully in October, when I'm in the new house and I'll have the new Sprues and Brews studio set up to support it. So yeah, we've got a few other videos up today as well. If you're into Warcry, we've got a couple of new Warcry kits unboxed, and we've got the new battle box for Age of Sigmar. Also over on the website spruesandbrews.com, I have got a full write-up of this as well, where I kind of go into the different Legion upgrades and a little bit on what's in the book. So yeah, until next time, hope you have a great weekend, and we'll see you soon.